The diocese is having this capital campaign that maybe you've heard a little bit about over the last little while. And this is supposed to be something that helps to strengthen our churches, our parishes, because that is the home it's the home for so much that we do, and just as we talked about in those two great commandments. And so as a whole, the whole diocese, every church in our diocese is doing this campaign. And on the whole, of all the money that's raised, 85% of it is staying in parishes, and then 15% is going to support very specific ministries in the diocese, namely for university chaplaincy, for hospital, prison, and migrant worker ministry. And in particular for the university ministry, I know the priest who's at Canadian Martyrs who works with McMaster University, and it's amazing what they're doing. Right now they have over 100 students in regular faith studies who they're learning about the faith when they're young at that age, such important years, where they can be nourished and set up in the faith, and they can continue on hopefully for the rest of their lives. I know for a campaign, right, raising money during this time in particular is pretty terrible. It's been an unpredictable thing that during the campaign that we would have this virus. No one saw it coming. We didn't expect it, but here it is, right? And one of the things that's helped me to be able to come around to saying, actually, it's not a great time, but we should still do it anyway, is that I know that for most of our people, most of them have been able to continue on financially, right? I know for some people, they may have lost their job or had their hours cut back, but for most of our people, they've been able kind of to continue on. Maybe it is more uncertain now, but their financial life hasn't been that deeply affected by the virus. And also, really, we're not demanding anything of anyone. All we're doing is inviting people in our parish as much as they're able to support this initiative, this campaign. And so how will this benefit St. Anne's? Well, one of the good things about us being part of this campaign is that we're one of the parishes who can actually get more out of it than we put into it. So as long as we meet our minimum goal, we'll get more. And what we're going to try to do over the next 3 years, our goal is to raise $191,500. And then because we're part of this campaign, we'll get bumped up to $200,000. What will that go towards? There's 3 kind of big goals that we need to look at for our parish and that I think will help us going forward. The first one is whether there's a virus or not, we have to deal with this. And that is with the roof over our church and over the rectory. What I'm planning with this campaign, one of the goals is to raise $100,000 to be able to set aside to be able to repair the roof when the time comes. We know that it's coming in the next few years, and so we got to get ready. A quote that I got, which I know is on the higher end, but at least to give us a bit of an idea of what it's going to cost, was $700,000, which is crazy, right? It's so much, but that's what it costs on the higher end to replace our roof with a steel roof. For us, this roof that we have on the church now is 100 years old. It's original. I don't know if you had realized that. When they built the church, they put on an expensive roof. They put on a slate roof, and it's lasted 100 years, which all of us over this time, we've benefited from their commitment and their long-term view. For us, we want to honor that and kind of try to do the same thing, right? Of trying to put on a good roof that will be there for a long time. So that's the first goal, $100,000 for the roof, and we're going to have to do that. I don't know exactly when. We'll put it off as long as we can, but it's coming. It's coming in the next few years. And the second one is for $80,000. What I would like to do is to put in air conditioning for our church. Now, some of you, when I brought it up and I've been asking around, what do you think of that, right? And some people, especially since it's gotten cooler, they say, well, Father, it's not that bad, is it? Like, it's cool outside, like it's not that bad. Do you remember, I would ask you, right? Do you remember sitting in church not that long ago in the summer with sweat beating down your face, underneath your clothes? Do you remember trying to get up out of your pew and your clothes were sticking to your pew, holding you in place? Do you remember any of this? Do you remember the feeling, that maybe even the feeling came, I don't want to be here, just because of the heat, right? I know for some people, they have less tolerance than others, all of this. For us, this is something that we need to look at, and it will help us going forward. The other churches in our area, they have air conditioning. We're kind of last to the line here. So we have a plan for that. We have a price for it. We can do it, and I think it's good for us to do it. And for me, the primary reason isn't just for the comfort or just for that comfort of being able to be in the church and not have that feeling of being super hot. But even more so, it's for the worship of God. For us, and for me, sometimes I'm just thinking, it's so hot in here. But to be free of that and just be able to say, I can just focus more easily on prayer, on what we try to do when we're here in the church. If there's anywhere that should have air conditioning, it should be the church, even before restaurants or stores, because what we do here is the most important. The most important. The third one that we're trying to raise a little bit of money for, $20,000, is to do some work in the entranceway and in the washroom. I don't know if you've looked into our washroom in the last little while, or ever, I guess. It's functional, it works well. It's a toilet kind of in an old closet. And I was out with someone for a meal at a restaurant, and I was explaining just our goals and with the washroom in particular. And when I got to the point of just saying, and in our washroom, in the outer area, there's carpet. The waitress overheard us, I guess she was at a different table, but overheard, and you should have saw her face when I said that. She just went, ew. And she's right, it's hard to keep clean, right? So in the washroom, definitely we want to put some tiles, something that's much better that we can clean, and just do a few other things to help the elderly especially, so that our washroom is kind of updated for our times now. And then as well, and if you want to look back, you can, just under the choir loft, the balcony, we have the wood with the windows, right, on either side. What I would like to do as well is to finish the middle part, to finish off the middle part with doors, so that we can have kind of a separate area. We can have the church where we're praying and we have what we do here, but then especially after the Mass, when we have our coffee Sundays and our social kind of things, that we have an area that's separate from the church, that we can do that. Before and after Mass, the church can be quiet, but yet and we want to build those friendships, and we will have a proper place to do that. So these are kind of the three big goals that I'm hoping that we'll be able to accomplish with this campaign. And I think it will help us a lot going forward as we continue to build our parish community. Now, what's going to happen? What's the process? The last thing I want to talk about is just the process for how this campaign works, so you'll know what to expect. For many of you, this week you'll receive a package in the mail about this campaign. It's not junk mail. Please don't throw it out. But open it and look through the materials that explains a little bit more about what we're trying to do. If you don't get a package in the mail, it's because I don't have your address. So what I'll do is next week I'll have more packages available, so anyone who didn't get one will be able to give them one next weekend. In that package, one of the things that you will find is a letter from me and from this campaign with a specific ask amount. So it's not, we're saying, can you please support these initiatives? But then also there will be, for many of you, a specific ask amount. And what that is it's just kind of doing the math, trying to figure out what do we need to get to our goal, and what would that look like from each of our parishioners. I want you to know that this isn't a demand, it's not an expectation that you have to do it, but it's just math, right? And this is kind of what it would look like to help us to get to our goal. So I don't want you to put your family's financial life in jeopardy, but I just want you to make a responsible decision, trying to be generous for the needs of the church that we love so much. Some of you, when you open your letter, your jaw might drop, and you say, whoa, Father's asking a lot of me. Please keep in mind that number is meant to be spread out over 3 years, right? So if you take a third of that for each year, that's kind of a better way to look at it. Some of you might think, well, Father, he thinks I'm loaded, right? Some of you, I hope, you're not going to get offended or insulted or be like, how dare he ask that much money of me? But rather, if the number's a little high, if it's too high, maybe you can just think to yourself, Father must think I'm really successful, right? He must think I'm really, really successful. That's a good thing, right? It's not a bad thing. If you find that your number is too low, maybe you'll get a number and you'll be insulted just saying, how could he ask so little of me? Then maybe you could just say to yourself, our priest, like he knows about spiritual things, but worldly things like money and that stuff, he doesn't have a good grasp of it. Maybe you can say that, right? For that number, how we got to that number, it was basically the consulting group that's helping us, they just basically recommended numbers for everyone. And so I just basically signed off on it. I have no idea how much money any of you have. I don't know, right? So I just sign it off and take it for what it's worth, right? And if you're able to, this is kind of what it would look like to help us to reach our goal. So that's the package. And then also this week, many of you will get a phone call from a volunteer from our parish. I'm so glad that we're going to be calling this week 130 families in our parish. We'll be calling to say hi. Maybe for some, they haven't been able to come back to church yet. I'm glad that we'll be able to reach out to them. This is one of the real things, the real benefits of this campaign. There's nothing to do with money. It's just that we'll be calling 130 people from our parish to get in touch once again, to make that connection is really, really good. So as they're calling, though, they'll be calling to say hi. Also, just to explain the goals of this campaign, what it is that we're trying to do. If someone has questions about how it works or anything like that, they can answer them or they can get the answers and get back to them. Please, and then finally, at the end of the conversation, they're going to ask you if they could set a time just to call back in a week or in 2 weeks, just to follow up and just to make sure if you have any other questions that we're able to answer them so you can make a really informed decision. Please be nice to these people, right? They're not salesmen. They're not trying to trick you. They're not trying to pressure you. The people who are calling have no idea what your ask amount was. They have no idea. All they are is just parishioners who love our parish and who want this campaign to be successful because they see the goals that we're trying to do. This week, I want to ask you to think and to pray a little bit about our parish. We love St. Anne's and we want this church to be here forever. St. Anne's has a long history of generosity, and I want to just thank you in advance as we begin this campaign for taking some time just to reflect upon this and trying to figure out how you would be able to support us in this big campaign. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, amen.